And what happens in Castle Joy?
A never-ending birthday party! It's like Chuck E. Cheese, except soon your children will forget they even have parents and choose to stay here for all eternity. Yay!
This place is a nightmare.
Come on!
You know, when I was getting set up to create this channel, I was thinking about every show I wanted to make a video on. I was certain I got every recently popular show. I had about 5 or 6 in my head that I couldn't wait to make a video about, and I completely forgot that Close Enough existed the entire time I was making that list. So what better show to start on than the one I completely forgot existed. Hello everyone, my name is Alexander Shade, and welcome to the Void Theater. So yeah, Close Enough is a show, and if you saw the title, you're probably a little confused about what I mean when I say that. So let's go through a quick breakdown of the show and then jump right into it. Now, Close Enough is already kind of a weird show due to the development hell it went through. Originally supposed to air on TBS in late 2017, shortly after regular show just ended, the series got delayed. Then it got delayed again. And again. And again. You get the picture. The show went through development hell and back until finally being released in 2020 on HBO Max. It follows the adventures of married couple Josh Singleton and Emily Ramirez with their daughter Candace, living in a duplex with their friends/roommates Bridget and Alex. Easy enough, right? Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into what I mean with that title and what I think about the show. Now I want to get this out of the way. I do enjoy Close Enough. I believe it's a solid series that did a great job following in J.G. Quintel's style and formula that he carried over from regular show. However, where the two shows differ is in the levels of absurdity and how they fit in relation to the type of show they're in. When it came to regular show, the odd and often surreal nature of the show felt like it was a part of the environment and it was treated like an everyday occurrence. Now see, while the same can be said for Close Enough, I couldn't help but notice how the show tried to take a more grounded approach to this style of humor. That's not to say the show failed in the attempts, but often you can't help but feel like the insanity would have been ramped up to a more satisfying degree in regular show. Take for instance regular show's season 2 episode, A Bunch of Baby Ducks. The entire episode continuously builds up these ducks to be some sort of weird, almost superpower creatures that really shouldn't exist. It's a weird idea, but it doesn't feel so out of place simply because the entire cast and setting is just as crazy as the ducks. It's hard for anything to seem out of the ordinary when our two main characters are a talking blue jay and a raccoon working under a sentient gumball machine. It really makes it feel like there's no limit to how crazy regular show can be, something the show has always tried to hammer home. Hell, it was even in the commercials for the show. Regular show, it's anything but. Now hold on to how that episode is structured and compare it to Close Enough season 2 episode, Birthdays. The main reason I chose this episode is because it follows a similar sort of structure as A Bunch of Baby Ducks. A seemingly normal thing that quickly turns into an absurd, surreal adventure. This time the episode consists of the two main characters Josh and Emily as they plan a way to get out of attending their daughter Candace's birthday party. A little bit of this and a little bit of that later, and the kids are sucked into a magical world where it's birthday time all the time. Now that entire concept is weird, and that's not counting a talking birthday present named Rappy, who then proceeds to have sex with the birthday magician who caused all of this. Yeah, like I said, it's a weird episode, but overall a solid episode. So now the question is, what issue do I have with the series? Well, the short answer is that for the first half of the episode, it felt like Close Enough was trying to distance itself from the sort of surreal humor that regular show was and trying to stay in a more grounded slice of life, only for it to slowly drift right back into it. To me, it feels like the show is struggling to find its own identity and just keeps banking off of the success its predecessor had. And honestly, the show is doing itself a massive disservice by not leaning into the more normal slice of life elements it's made for itself. It has the strength to carry itself without needing to lean back on the same style of comedy that regular show had, or at least not to such a heavy degree. See, when the show stays in its own type of humor, I genuinely started to enjoy the episodes a little more. Now compare that to season 2 episode 7, The Erotic Adventures of La Pearl. Yet again, I feel like there's a lot to explain just off that title alone. This time, the main portion of the episode is dedicated not to Josh and Emily, but to the two side characters, Alex and Pearl. The plot follows them as Pearl pretends to be the author of an erotic Viking novella that Alex wrote in the hopes of getting it on an Oprah knockoff show. Just gonna let that sentence resonate with everyone before we carry on. Okay? We all good? Great. Anyway, the two decide to work as a team, and with this being a cartoon, things quickly fall apart and they're quickly at each other's throats. Now, if that sounds pretty generic, well, it is. The real comedy in this episode mainly comes from the interactions that Alex and Pearl have, not just with each other, but also with the manager of the publishing company. Also, Alex is able to make women projectile vomit just by saying erotic words, which is a funny bit for this episode. My point being that the episode felt at least a little more like it was its own thing with its own sense of comedic timing. It didn't feel like regular show with a different can of paint, it finally started to feel like its own show, and that was mainly because it stuck to a more grounded sense of humor. There was still a level of wackiness to it, but it felt less like regular show and more like a really weird episode of Friends, which while sounding vaguely kind of odd, is what I kind of expected from the show, and it's honestly felt like that was what the show was trying to be from the start, a more insane take on the sitcom style genre. And honestly, that's kind of what I expected from the show, and frankly, it seems like that's what the show's writers kind of went into with this idea as well. There are plenty of episodes that, while still crazy, still seem to lean more into the less absurd style of comedy. Again, to reiterate, I'm not saying that regular show style of humor can't work for Close Enough. It's more that when they do lean into it, it always ends up feeling like I'm just watching an episode of regular show with more humans involved. Honestly, I think that's what the biggest issue is with Close Enough. It always feels like it's just stuck in regular show's shadow. From the art style to the way most of the humor is structured, Close Enough feels less like its own series and more like some sort of regular show spin-off. And frankly, it's kind of a shame because the show does have enough merit and charm to stand on its own. It just honestly works better when it sticks to the more casual style of humor and less of the surreal. Given time and maybe another season or two, I think Close Enough could find its niche audience and become one of the better adult animated series out there, and maybe be able to avoid all the comparisons it receives to regular show, while finding a way to stand on its own 2 feet, of course. But anyway guys, that's going to be it for this review, but before I head out, let me leave you with some questions. Do you think Close Enough can find its own sense of self, or is it just doomed to be seen as a spin-off of the show that came before it? And honestly, how would you rate the show as a whole? Leave a comment down below, and while you're there, why not subscribe for more videos on the way? Until then, this has been Alexander Shade, and I hope to see you back in my theater.